With all that has happened to Europe and the transatlantic and the kind of fracturing of the relations with Washington, Europe leads friends today. They need a helping hand. They need someone to reach out and help them. And I think we are the best. You know, the Chinese come with their own baggage.
Right.
We have no baggage. And so therefore they will find India to be a very natural partner. This is not rhetoric. And I think this is the time in that moment in history when our interests really converge very nicely between India and Europe. And if we play our cards right, we can actually look at a new era of substantive cooperation, economic, trade of course, but I'm even talking military and defense with Europe.
That's right, because they have technology, some of the best technologies perhaps.
Well, they are under pressure to increase their defense expenditure.
That's right.
They are under pressure to increase their military manufacturing base.
So India could be their manufacturing house, manufacturing base from what a lot of people thinking. So during the war, for instance, a lot of artillery shells were being supplied by Indian firms to European countries.
So that could be the thin end of the wedge.
Yes.
I mean, if you look at a 5-10 year program, if you want to increase, as the Americans are saying, not just 2%, but go to 5% of budget. If you calculate 5% of a European budget, that's big money.
Yes, exactly.
And India does not have the geostrategic baggage or the geopolitical risk which China carries. And we are also developing our own industry. So, and the other area I think definitely where we can help also will be in the reconstruction of Ukraine and starting with addressing the huge demographic crisis both in Ukraine and in Russia, and leveraging our enormous manpower skills, skilled, semi-skilled, unskilled. This is going to happen in the next 10 years.
Yeah, the numbers are humongous.
There's severe shortages in Ukraine, in Europe. Aging population. Ukraine is the casualties of the war. Similarly, in Russia, they've lost hundreds and thousands of men, young men. So I think all these are good opportunities. And if the sanctions are lifted on Russia, then I think
their economy will also then get back.
And then we can actually go back and restore our relationship.
That's very good. One final question. We haven't spoken about China. You did mention in the passing that China has its own baggage. How would Russians and more than Russians, how would the Europeans see China now?
You know, I've heard a few Europeans who are more angry with the Americans than other Europeans, and who have expressed their frustration by remarking that if the Americans do not recognize the European sensitivities about Russia, there is no reason why the Europeans should recognize American sensitivities about China. So don't take European support for America's China policies for granted. So, but there is a dependency between Europe and China, which they can't wish away. So it's going to be interesting. The Chinese will obviously also try to capitalize and exploit the strategic vacuum in Europe by trying to jump in. I think the Europeans will not be so welcoming as they probably would be to the Indians. But the Europe-China relationship will be interesting. Russia has made it clear that they're not going to allow European companies to come back in a hurry. The Europeans are saying they won't encourage their companies to go back to Russia because the wounds are fresh. They're not going to heal for the next many years. So in all of this, how does China position itself?
That's we'll have to watch that.
So if the Europeans are looking for markets, for investments, for technology, and Russia is kind of closed, that's where China comes in. And similarly, I would say if China feels the heat from rehabilitated Russia, which now has access to the American economy, they might feel tempted to diversify also away from China. So this would be a net negative.
Absolutely. No, so fascinating moment in history, really. International relations, and for some of us who do this for a living, I think it's good old days are back where you've got multiple things happening at the same time, thanks to one president in the White House.
I think the world is being turned on its head.
That's right.
This is not a mean moment, and things are happening at a very fast pace. But it's not just the speed; it's the severity of the change, which is also very significant. And it's not a normal period of international relations. And I think 2025 will go down as a turning point.